Hi everyone, and welcome to STAMPtember, a month-long event from Simon Says Stamp filled with lots of fun and of course stamping. This is Yana, and in this video I will be working with a stamp set called You're So Sweet from the new Simon Says Stamp release. I have two cards to share with you using just that stamp set along with a few dies from the new release. So here's the stamp set that I will be working with today. It's got lots of different fruit images in here, an apple, watermelon, cherries, strawberries, really lots of options. And then you have some sentiments, some pretty general, and then one that matches one of the fruits. It says orange is sweet, and you can pair it with that slice of orange. Now there are some other sentiments in here as well. You have you sweet thing, such as sweetie, and then this large sentiment that says you are so sweet. I really like how big it is. I think it can be used as a focal point for a card, with some fruit scattered in the background, or it can be used vice versa to create a background. And this is what I will be actually doing in today's video. And there's also a little cute heart stamp in this set. You can never have too many cute hearts. Now, I'm going to begin working on my card by stamping some of the fruit images on a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock in Memento Tuxedo black ink and color them using Copic markers. I'm going to stamp each image a few times so that if I mess up my coloring, I don't have to go back and stamp it again. It just saves a little bit of time this way. So I have my apple, my cherries, a pear, and some strawberries. Like I said before, I'm going to use Copic markers to color my images. You can use any other markers you like, or you can do a little bit of watercolor here, or have images stamped on pattern paper and cut them out. The sky is the limit here, and with the outline images like these, there are really lots and lots of options to add color to them. So I encourage you to use the method that you like best. I have been determined to learn to color with Copic markers lately, so that's why I'm going to use them today. This way I get to practice a bit more. Now, because I'm absolutely no pro when it comes to coloring with Copics, I'm not going to show you in detail how I colored everything. I basically just used three colors, light, medium, and dark, for all of my images, made one side darker and the other side lighter, and just blended everything in. It took me about 20 minutes to color the images, but I really don't mind spending the time doing this as I find it very relaxing. So after my images were colored, I took my scissors and cut them out, leaving a small white border around them, just like the kind of border that you would have if you were to use a die and die cut some stamped images out. So here I have all of my fruit images cut out and ready to be used on a card. I did mess up my cherries a bit. The ink bled out at the bottom there, but I'm going to have another fruit placed on top of it, and it's partially going to cover it up, so it's not going to show up on the finished project. The idea is to have my fruits arranged in the center of the card with a stamped background behind it. And by the way, if you're not into stamped backgrounds, I'm going to show you another way to finish this card at the end of this video, so be sure to watch until the very end. To stamp my background, I'm using the Sunshine ink from Simon Says Stamp and the large sentiment, You Are So Sweet. I'm going to stamp it repeatedly on my paper, and this is also Neenah Solar White cardstock. So I'm going to begin in the middle just so that I have everything centered, and will continue stamping until my background is filled. I'm trying to match up some parts of the sentiment just to make it look like it's a one huge continuous sentiment. Now, I also want to add an additional sentiment to my card, and I want it to run across my colored fruits. For that, I need to die cut a banner, and I'm actually going to use a die from the new release from the Holidays at Home die set, and we'll do some creative and partial die cutting to change the way my finished die cut piece looks like. I'm going to place my die on a piece of cardstock, tape it down so that it doesn't move, place it on my cutting plate, but leave that non-V-shaped edge hanging off and cover it with a base plate. I'm using an Artisan Explorer machine from Spellbinders, but this technique works in other machines as well. All you have to do is partially cover the die with your platforms or plates. And it is indeed a very easy technique that really lets you stretch your supplies. So after one side is die cut, I'm going to flip the die and place it like so on my paper. I want my banner to be a bit longer to fit my sentiment, so I'm also going to enlarge this die cut. Notice that I have the edge of my die going across the part of the die cut piece. So again, I only need to partially cover my die and my paper with my plate so that I do not cut off that already die cut piece. And just remember to use low-tech tape to tape your die down to your paper to make sure it doesn't move and cuts exactly where you need it to cut. So here's my enlarged banner and my die. You can clearly see the difference here. Next, I'm going to stamp my main sentiment, the one that says "Such a Sweetie," on my banner using the same sunshine ink from Simon Says Stamp. Now, before I begin assembling my card, I want to add some sugar to my fruits. I want them to look like they're covered in sugar and therefore are really sweet. I can easily achieve this look with the help of a little embossing powder. I'm going to use the embossing pen from Tsukineko and just coat my images with embossing ink. You can also press your fruits onto the embossing ink pad, but this way you're going to end up having embossing powder on that white border as well. And I only wanted to have it on the fruit itself, not even the leaves or the stems. So for my sugar, I'm going to use the Kaleidoscope embossing powder from STAMPtember. It's a clear powder with a mix of green and blue glitter particles that looks absolutely gorgeous. I've used it to imitate snow on white surfaces, create fantastic effects on some dark surfaces, and today I'm using it to add fake sugar to my images. If you don't have this embossing powder, you can make one yourself by mixing clear embossing powder with a bit of glitter. But if you like this look, I would definitely recommend buying this particular embossing powder. So here are my cherries, all nice and covered in sugar. I love how they turned out. I'm going to repeat this on all of my fruit images. Now, before I begin assembling my card, I also want to die cut a few little hearts just to scatter around my fruits. I'm going to use 2 heart dies from the Holly Couple and Barn set, and we'll die cut them out of white cardstock. To add color, I'm going to use my Copic markers and will quickly color them to match my fruits. Now, to assemble my card, I'm going to adhere some of the fruit images using the multi-matte medium directly to my background, and then use foam adhesive for the strawberry and the banner. My images curled up a bit from all the heat embossing, and I actually like that they're not as flat and add a little bit of dimension to my card. I'm also going to adhere the little hearts and add a few gems to my card. I originally wanted to add this to an orange card base, but later decided the yellow would look much better as it matched the color of the sunshine ink that I used to stamp my background. So here my first card is ready. You can see how well it turned out. I really like the sugary look and the little extra hearts around my scattered images. For my second card, I wanted to die cut a tag and place a few fruits there at an angle. I used the barn die from the new Holly Couple and Barn die set from Simon Says Stamp to die cut a tag out of white cardstock. I actually just used the negative part of the die cut as a tag. I really liked that shape and felt it would be perfect to place some of my fruits there. So you see, this die set has lots of potential and can be used not just for holiday cards. I then grabbed that same die again and decided to use it to emboss my card base just to create some texture on my background. I placed it on my card front, taped it down with a piece of washi tape, and sent it through my machine using the embossing sandwich. You need the Spellbinder's tan embossing mat to be able to do this with your dies. And another tip is to remember to lay your card base open when you do this embossing so that you only emboss the front, not the front and the back of the card. After my embossing is done, I can layer my negative die cut tag with my fruit inside of the embossed barn. I'm also going to staple some twine to the top of my tag using some colored staples from Your Memory Keepers. You can punch a hole and thread your twine through the hole, but I decided I wanted to use a stapler and just staple it in place. I seem to really like that look lately. Next, I'm going to use some foam adhesive and place it on the back of the tag to create some dimension on my card. Now, after everything was adhered in place, I decided I wanted to add a piece of this yellow pattern paper to the bottom of my tag. So I die cut another tag or another negative part of the barn out of this pretty yellow paper, and it's actually some leftover from one of the Simon Says Stamp card kits. And then placed it on top of my tag, used a pencil to mark where I need to make my cut, and used my scissors and made a diagonal cut and adhered that partial tag to the bottom part of my white tag. Finally, I added a few sugary hearts around my main image and completed my project. So here you can see my 2 projects side by side, one with a stamped background and one with an embossed background. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking for a list of supplies to create these cards, you can find it below in the video description or in my blog. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please remember to click the thumbs up button and share it with your friends. Thanks, and I'll see you again later. Bye-bye!